How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. Today, our special guest, Bobby Black, Leaf Bowl competition director. He's also the California Leaf historian and the former editor of High Times Magazine. How are you doing today, Bobby?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for having me on.
We've known each other for a long time, from back in the day of High Times.
We do, and I was racking my brain trying to figure out if I could remember when we actually met, and I can't, but do you remember?
I think I do remember. The first time I met you, probably you didn't remember me because I was just a little guy at the time, but 2010 San Francisco High Times Cup.
Okay.
So
wait, 2010? I wasn't at the 2010.
Then we didn't meet there.
Nope.
So yeah.
That was the very first U.S. Cup. It was at Dennis Peron's place. And it was the medical cup.
It was the medical cup, and that was in San Francisco in the furniture district.
Right, but the crew stayed, I think, at Dennis Peron's place, the High Times crew.
Totally.
So that's where, the after party and stuff was. But I wasn't brought out for that one. I had been to pretty much every cup in Amsterdam every year. But when they started in the U.S., they only brought a handful of people. I didn't make it. I met to almost every other one.
So the first time we met was probably in Amsterdam at the 2012 Cup, I'm guessing.
That sounds
or maybe at the office before that. I think I might have come to the office a few times before I was coming into town with bags of weed. Scaring people in New York, thinking it was no big deal.
That part I remember, yeah.
Yeah. And I think those were wild times, It was super legal. I was super stupid and super young.
Yeah, we all were.
I guess I was that young, but I felt super young.
Yeah. Working at High Times I started in 94. Back then, working at High Times you had to really love weed to want to do that for a living. And we were taking chances all the time. People's faces had to be blurred or black barred out. You would be blindfolded to be taken to grow rooms. It was the Wild West, as they say, It was wild, and those were great times. High Times Magazine, around the first U.S. Cup was in California 2010. Yep.
That was my introduction to High Times Magazine, to the staff and the people and the vibe. I hadn't gotten to any of the Amsterdam Cups before that. Really amazing times. I was with my ex-partner, Mike. He had a doctor's booth where he had doing the scripts, right? It was all the medical recommendations. And it was an interesting thing. I've been reading High Times Magazine since I was a kid. I was looking up to Ariane long before we became friends. I was like, who's that dude? And that's an amazing thing that he does. And these guys sell seeds and all this other stuff. And, High Times back then, it was an amazing time. I think everybody was doing great. And it was just growing so fast, not just the plant, but the whole industry.
Yeah, like I said, I started at High Times in 94 as an intern in college and got hired there and worked my way up through the production art department. And it took me, I was there for 10 years working in the back office before I actually started doing more writing and stepping out in front of the camera and being more of a known personality, let's say. Yeah. But when I started, they didn't even use, the magazine was still made with cut and paste. It wasn't even made on computers yet, So it's wow. I've watched that whole transition happen. And talking about the Cannabis Cup, same thing. I started in High Times September 1994. And after being there for just maybe a month and a half, they said, do you want to go to Amsterdam and work our event? Yeah. I was 21 years old. I had never even been on an airplane before, let alone out of the country. And they're like, do you want to go to Amsterdam? I'm like, hell fucking yeah, I want to go to Amsterdam. Nice. Whatever I have to do, I'll do it. Just bring me to Amsterdam. So that was my first experience going to Amsterdam, November 1994. It was the 7th Cup. It was the first cup that was ever really open to the public. So there were hundreds of people from around the world showing up for this. Wow. And it was wild, man. I got thrown into a world that I could never have even imagined before. I had read High Times before. I had from in high school, the issue with Robert Plant on the cover because I'm a big Led Zeppelin head, totally. And all that stuff. But it was wild to be thrust into that world. And I was so lucky, to just be this stoner metalhead kid from Brooklyn that lucked out and got this position and ended up spending 21 years there and meeting and hanging out and smoking with every counterculture icon you can imagine. What a trip.
I've seen the photos. It's pretty wild. And then even the times when I came to the office for the first time, you guys were celebrities. It was a celebrity vibes, right? The magazine was doing really well at the time. The cups were doing really well. Everything was on this crazy upward trajectory that wasn't slowing down. And it was like, from 1 week to the next, it was pretty wild. You guys were throwing these parties for, thousands of people.
Yeah.
And and it was wild.
So you talk about we were celebrities. It's funny. We had the term pot star we made up for that. Like instead of a rock star, you were pot stars.
Right.
And the funny thing is that in the past, like up until like the 2000 mark or late 90s, the people that were famous or known in the community were mostly cultivators or smugglers, but none of them were really above board. They were all used pseudonyms or had their faces hidden. So like there wasn't really that many people in the culture that were like out front other than the activists. Of course, the activists were out there fighting for stuff. So when we emerged, at a time when when the stigma was beginning to fall away, and me and Danny Danko and my buddy Chris Udaly that used to work there with us, the original pot star, we were the first ones who were like, I realized I'm like, working at High Times is like being on the cast of SNL or something. Like we are badasses. Like we live these awesome lives. Like let's do it out front. Like let's tell people about what we're doing, and that's how my column came about, in 2000. I think it started in 2000. The almost infamous, my column was, I said to the management there, I said, listen, I have all these cool stories that I've gotten to live by working here at High Times that I've never really shared. Like, give me a column, I'll start telling these stories. And that's how it came to be. And that's how it evolved. And my position on the column was always just what I said to you earlier. Like, I'm just a regular stoner dude from Brooklyn. Yeah, I'm nobody special, but I lucked out and got this cool ass gig at High Times. And now you can come along with me on my adventures, and I'm going to bring you along for the ride kind of thing. And it was a very popular column. And my very first column that I ever wrote for High Times, for Almost Infamous, was the time I smoked a bowl with Ozzy Osbourne.
That's amazing.
And as you most of your viewers know, I'm sure Ozzy just very recently passed away after an amazing tribute concert they did to him in England. And, that was an amazing experience so what happened was, if the story, I'll keep it brief, but it's a great story. When Sabbath was first reuniting, and I think it was 98 or 99, they reached out to High Times. We didn't even reach out to them. They reached out, their management, and said, Sabbath's doing a reunion. We want to be on the cover of High Times. We want to do High Times. And I was like, at first the publisher told me I could do the interview, and I was over the moon, like completely over the moon.
Right.
And then my coworker, Chris Simonek, who had seniority over me, kind of weaseled in, and he was a better writer than me at the time. He was definitely a better writer than me. I will give him that. So they ended up giving it to him, and I was like heartbroken. And he was like, "You're going to come with me. Like we're going to do this together." So he brought me. We went to the hotel. We met Tony Iommi, the guitarist, and Ozzy in their hotel room. We were like fanboys. We were freaking shaking. We were so nervous, but they were awesome. And then after that, we did the interview, and we left. And we were supposed to come back the next day to a photographer studio to do the photos. And they had procured all this weed and props and everything for the photo shoot. And they were telling us, like, when, don't get in the way, because Ozzy has a lot of handlers and there's record people. So we got there. I got there early, and I sat in the couch in the corner, and I didn't make a sound. And Ozzy arrived, and everybody came in, and I'm sitting in the corner smoking a bowl, and I was like, and Ozzy comes in, and the first thing he did, he sees a big pile of weed, and the first thing he did when he comes in, he goes, "Oh my God, is that for real?" And he goes trotting over to it and starts manhandling the buds and smelling them. And all of his handlers are freaking out. They're like, no, because he's sober at this point for years. Like, no, Ozzy, no, leave that. We got to stay focused and whatever. And so he picks up this big nug, and he's smelling it, and he looks around, and I'm sitting alone on this couch in the way corner, and he comes trotting over to me, and I'm just like frozen like a deer in headlights. And he says, "Can we smoke this?" And I said, "Hell fucking yeah, we can smoke that." And I picked up the bowl, and he sat down next to me, and he starts asking me about the bud. Where was this grown? And what is this strain? And his people are freaking out. They're like, "No, Ozzy, come on, we got to stay focused." He was completely ignoring them. All he cared about was the weed. And so I packed a bowl of the weed, and we sat down, and I lit it up, passed it to him. We passed it back and forth a couple times. He got up and went and did the photo shoot, and I was just like in heaven. I'm sitting there like, oh man, this is amazing. And then a whole bunch of people from High Times show up all of a sudden and come in all loud and, "Hey, what's up? Blah, 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 blah." And it pissed off the photographer and the record people and stuff. And they were like, all right, that's it. This is too many people. Everybody out. And I'm like hiding in the corner. And they're like, you too. I'm like, me, I was quiet this whole time. I didn't say a word. I'm over here. And they're like, everybody, if they have to leave, you have to leave. I'm like, oh, God damn it. So I left. So when we went to the interview, I had my Paranoid vinyl and I had them sign it, but Iommi had gotten up to go to the bathroom when Ozzy signed my album, and I was going to get Iommi to sign it at the photo shoot. Yeah. I never got Iommi to sign it because they threw us out. And as we were leaving, Tony Iommi was coming in and we passed him, and I was like, God damn it. But I have a signed Ozzy album that says Stay Stoned to me, and I got to smoke a bowl with him. That's my Ozzy story.
That's an awesome. Yeah. It reminds me of an Ed Rosenthal story. I feel like Ed Rosenthal is the Ozzy Osbourne of our industry.
That's yeah, I could see that. It's funny because on the way, we were talking about when Ozzy passed, and we were saying Ozzy was kind of like the Jerry Garcia of the metal community.
For sure.
He was the Jerry. They were the Sabbath was the dead of the metal community, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I love Ed. Ed's quite the character, but I feel like he's had some handlers over the years that he doesn't listen to.
Oh, he's a very spirited, wacky dude. I love him.
He's argumentative. Yeah, I mean, he's a whole package, though. You get the good with the bad, and the argumentative side. It's just part of who he is. And, you gotta love him to death.
I do. It's funny because I didn't really have much of a relationship with him most of the time I was at High Times, because he only bopped in and out once in a while, and he only dealt with his editors and stuff. I didn't really. I was just some kid that was working there, for a while,
Right.
And it wasn't until after I left High Times that I ended up becoming much better friends with him, and now I know him better than I ever did.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time and helped him out with projects, and he's the inspiration for things like my book. I couldn't have done my book without someone like Ed. Ed, all the other guys that came before us with books. It's like these guys really, set the bar for where it could go, and they did it at a time when there wasn't a lot of information. There was no internet, and these guys with passion, they moved the plant forward in their own ways. And I feel like both of us have done the same in our own ways. We're at the end of the day, we're pushing the plant forward.
Yeah. Speaking of the plant, can we smoke something?
We can totally smoke.
Let's fire something up. You got some good hash there, right?
Definitely. I have a big hash collection. You also have a big hash collection.
Well, nothing like yours. But yes, every year when I would go to Amsterdam, I would hit the shops, especially the Bluebird. That was my favorite because they had the biggest selection.
Yeah.
And I would bring back hash and I would smuggle it back. So I have like a little hash cellar kind of thing where I have like little bits and this and that and whatever from over the years. And the great thing about traditional hash is it ages well. You can hang on to it for a long time.
Do you freeze it or do you just leave it on the?
I just leave it, man. It's still good. I have some black Afghani. I think it's Mazari Sharif, like black gooey hash that's still freaking gooey, man. It's been years and years, and it is still soft and moist. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. I freeze a lot of mine because I'm trying to preserve the terps.
Yeah,
I think that's the big thing. If you're trying to preserve terps, you want to keep it in the freezer, but it's just, and some of the stuff is super shelf stable. The Piatella is supposed to sit out, right? It's like it ages out. The difference, so like I'm just now getting into, my friends make it, all our hash is US stuff made with US genetics, but like mimicking the styles from overseas. But like the difference between Piatella, if it's aged a month, 2 months, 3 months, and now 4 months, we're 4 months into it. It's pretty amazing how those terps change from month to month. And we keep on breaking into stuff and then making new stuff. My friends make new stuff, and it's like, it's pretty wild. The amazing flavor combinations, and then also the effect and how the effect even changes.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about the traditional hash is, and I wasn't aware of this when I was younger, but you have how the cannabinoids will slowly break down to CBN. So a lot of times, like if I dab, I usually dab mostly in the evening, but I can't dab past 10 p.m. or it keeps my mind too active and I can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
But I can hit that traditional hash before bed and take some sips off of that, and it's delicious.
Yeah, I like doing dabs first thing in the morning. So like if I'm going to go to the gym, I'll do a dab, and not a huge dab. Some of these guys do monster dabs, but I'll do a nice dab to get me going, do some cardio. And then the same thing with the traditional hash. I'm all about the traditional hash before I go to bed. But yeah, we have so many different kinds. But yeah, the CBN for sure, it all breaks down to CBN. That's part of the degradation process. As the cannabinoids degrade, they convert into CBN, whether even CBD or THC, they both break down into CBN and make you tired.
Yeah.
So it's considered hemp.
It's good to smoke at night.
Yeah, I agree. I like smoking. It just depends on what I'm doing. So like I smoke, I like depending on the occasion. If I'm going to listen to music, if I'm going to the gym and I'm doing cardio or something I don't like, I'll smoke and it makes me pass the time a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't smoke nearly as much as I used to back in my high times days, but I'm more quality over quantity now.
Yeah.
And, I enjoy dabs. Dabs is what I lean towards the most, but traditional hash, I still hit pretty regularly because it'll always hold a very special place in my heart. And I love the flavor and I love the tradition of it. I'll always smoke traditional hash.
I love the flavor of it.
Yeah.
And it's super nostalgic because when I get that taste from some of these varieties, it takes me back to my younger years when I was in high school, the first time I saw hash. And then High Times Magazine, I got a great story about that. There was a Valentine's Day cover that had different hash on the cover.
I remember it. I was working.
And I saw green hash and I'm like, dude, that must be good. I never see green hash, thinking that was the best. It must be the best or whatever.
Yeah.
And finally, when I tried green hash, I was like, that's not correct. But when there's so many different forms of it, it's just hash is like, it could mean so many different things to different people. And depending on the world, whether it's for, Lebanese hash as opposed to stuff that's from, if we look at India, anywhere in India, like charas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like you compare that and then we go down to Morocco, it's totally two different things. It all comes from the same plant, but processed differently. And really impressive in how it's spread out. And the use is really interesting. It's still, and you're a historian, so you know a lot about it.
Yeah, I did a piece, The History of Hash, for Leaf a couple of years ago. We should mention, shout out to Leaf. I spent, like I said, 21 years at High Times. It was like a family there. I loved my coworkers. We worked and played and traveled together, and it was like a family. It was amazing. And then things changed.
Yeah.
The culture there changed. It got more corporate. It got sold. I was already gone by the time it was sold. There was a whole lot of crazy political stuff went on. And then everything that happened after it was sold. You know what? At the time, I was so hurt that I had been fired.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I was so glad that I left when I did, because it kind of felt like it went downhill after that, from my perspective anyway, and from a lot of people's perspective.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've had a lot of little different, I've freelanced for a lot of cannabis publications, done pieces here and there.
Yeah.
I started one podcast, Blazing with Bobby Black, did that for a while. And then a few years ago, I noticed there's a great cannabis entrepreneur, lighting guy named Jair Velleman in Amsterdam.
He's awesome.
Yeah. He used to be the guy at Gavita. Now he's got
founded Gavita,
digital
DLI.
lighting innovations. Yeah. Anyway, he has this amazing collection of cannabis artifacts that this is what he spent his money on when after he sold Gavita, made a big paycheck and started like hunting these great little artifacts and artwork from cannabis culture history online. And he has this amazing, archive of over 500 items. And I was looking for work at the time, trying to figure out, what do I want to do? What's my next role in the cannabis media world? And I saw him posting about these artifacts and saying like, I'd like to open a museum someday with these artifacts. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, if you're going to have a museum, you're going to need somebody to write about the artifacts, to write the descriptions and, and whatever. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, if you want someone to help you with these descriptions or whatever, I think I could help you out with that, And the next day he got back to me and he said, I asked around about you and I heard a lot of good things. And like, I was thinking about it and I need someone to do more than just write the descriptions. I need someone to help me build this museum if I'm going to do this, because I've never done a museum and, I need help. And after talking to a bunch of people, I feel like you might be the right guy to help me do that. Are you interested? I said, yeah, that sounds amazing. Flew me out to Amsterdam for the job interview. Yeah. The job interview consisted of me hanging out with him for a few days, eating like Michelin star dinners and smoking ridiculous amounts of hash.
Nice.
And just like broing down. Like he really just wanted to get a feel for me, like who I was and what I was about more than, I think he already knew my qualifications, so, and it was great. We had a great time. We've been great friends ever since. And we were gearing up towards actually starting the process of opening this museum, and then COVID hit. and everything changed. And he's like, no one's going to be doing a street museum for a long time. And, so we kind of took a pause on the museum, and I'm still trying to light a fire under his ass. Jair, if you're watching, we got to get that museum going.
He's definitely watching.
Yeah, I would still love to do that with him one day. That collection deserves to be seen.
Right.
And I know that he and I can do justice, even if it's just a pop-up exhibit or like a temporary something. We need to put something together, because it's we can. This is our logo, World of Cannabis Museum.
I got a bunch of contributions to the archives. Really? Yeah, definitely for the collection. I have roach clips from the '60s that were passed down from my aunt.
Wow, nice.
All kinds of cool stuff.
Speaking of poaching items for the collection, we're actually so let me backtrack for a second. One of the offshoots of me trying to do the museum with him was creating Cannthropology, which is my cannabis history podcast and blog or column in Leaf. And I think the name speaks for itself. It's the study of cannabis culture and art and civilization.
Right.
And so I've been doing this column for 5 years now, doing the podcast for 5 years. I've interviewed some amazing people. The idea is to talk to the legends themselves, if possible, when they're around. And if not, then talk to the people who are close to them and get the real stories. And, I've fallen into this role, I feel like, at this stage in my life. I'm not, when I was the young guy, I was the sex, drugs, and rock and roll guy. I wrote all the lifestyle stuff, the heavy metal interviews for High Times, and started the Miss High Times contest, which was, one other thing I was famous for. What was the first year of that? 2006, I want to 5 or 6, 2005. But now I'm at this stage in life where, I had the amazing opportunity to meet all these activists and icons in cannabis while working at High Times. Thanks to Steve Hager. A shout out to Steve Hager for making all that possible, like bringing all those people in the counterculture together. But now I feel like I'm a bridge hopefully between the younger generation and those older icons, because I got to meet and know them. And now I'm in a position where I can pass that along to the next generation. And that's what Cannthropology is about. Right. But we're also working on doing a TV show of Cannthropology. Nice. Where we would interview people and pick items for the collection as part of the show. So
nice. That sounds
we're shopping that around right now. So that should be
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how it evolved from magazines to the internet and podcasts and going into mainstream. It's going to go into mainstream. It's already it's not fully mainstream yet. I don't think on TV. You see people smoking, but we need more shows on it where it's not just on Vice. I love Vice. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think they should be on Netflix, and they should, and they have some documentary style stuff, but it's still not where I'd love it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this, our concept is, like I said, with the column, just go talk to the people while they're still here. If not, then talk to the people who best
I love
knew
that
them.
Because it's part of the reason I do this podcast. It's like the oral history of cannabis, right? And I talk about this a lot with the D'Angelos. And really
they're a huge part of cannabis history as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Back to the Yippies in New York.
Back to the Yippies. Yeah. They have ties to both West Coast, East Coast.
Yeah.
They're great guys.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I bounce ideas off them, and we have conversations pretty regularly about stuff, and those guys are great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things I would like to do going forward too, and I've talked to the Leaf guys about this, is so we've been doing these Leaf Bowl events.
I love it.
We just did our first one in California.
Amazing.
A little while.
I got to judge
a few weeks ago, actually. You were one of our judges. What did you think of the?
I thought it was the good, the bad, the ugly. To be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's and that's how you want to be honest and transparent with people. And I think that there was some really, really good entries. There were some decent ones, and there was obviously some bad ones. And I think, if you have a bad entry, you shouldn't enter stuff like that. In my opinion, if you don't know that it's that bad, somebody needs to tell you so that you can correct it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of ego gets involved with cultivation, and we have this personal attachment to that plant because we've grown it for so long.
Yeah.
That if you can get outside that and really judge yourself, that's how you improve. Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's could hopefully be one of the effects of the Leaf Bowl, because we release all the scores, the judges' scores. And so exactly where your product landed on the spectrum of the scoring. And if you see you're at the bottom, and we also provide judges comments to the people only if they ask for it, and they're always anonymous. So they don't know which judge said what.
Right.
But if they say, if they want the feedback, we'll be happy to share that information with them. But, if you see your thing scored low, maybe you go for something you see what scored big, who won, who got big, and you adjust appropriately or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
it's interesting to see how it changes from state to state too, market to market. It changes pretty significantly. Like our first one was first Leaf Bowl was in Alaska, and then we've done Alaska like 3 or 4 times. We just did Oregon for the fourth time. We just did Washington State for the 3rd time.
Yeah,
and we've done 2 in Maryland and Baltimore, and then Cali is our first one. And
I bet that equatorial and sativa varieties that people were entering were the best in California, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was some very significant differences. Like, for instance, I would say, and no offense, guys, I love you guys all, but some of the hash stuff in Alaska, not up to the same level like the dabs as what we're used to, in California, no disrespect. But the edible game in Alaska is on point. There are some fantastic edible companies, really slick, professional, delicious edibles up there.
Nice.
Cali, interestingly enough, not one hydrocarbon concentrate entry, all solventless.
Yeah.
It's not a big shocker, but I thought at least a few.
You would think you would
come
have
in
some.
there.
I know some brands that are still producing.
I was pretty, and we had full melt as well.
Yeah.
But no BHO. And I was kind of shocked about that. But that's cool. It's the market. Anytime you do one of these for the first time in a state or a city, people don't know what to expect. Some people are hesitant to enter, some people, once the events happened and they see how it goes and everything,
right.
We usually have like a huge surge next year of entries and people wanting to participate. But we had an amazing turnout. It was a fantastic event. We had over 50 vendors.
The entries were, there were so many entries. It was entry overload, right? And to do it properly. But yeah, I think that it was amazing. And you had a lot of categories.
Yeah.
But there was some really good, there were some really good entries, like really impressive for competitions. In every category, there was something interesting.
Yeah.
And then some genetics I really knew, and some things there was a couple of things that were new to me where I'm like, whoa, I've never smelled that type of like combination of, it was like, and I don't even remember what the entry was, but there was cinnamon, there was like cinnamon, mace, and another spice, all where you could smell it in the entry.
Nice.
So,
well, one of the things we also do is we provide after the event, and I haven't done this for you yet, I apologize, but we provide the judges the entry key so they'll know which entry was what or whatever. So I'm sure you probably have a pretty good idea anyway.
Yeah. And it's like, at least in the family.
Yeah.
It's funny because like, well, the GMO stuff is very GMO-ish. Like, I think it was Chem D, and I was like, that's the one that was Chem D I thought was GMO because it was so sharp and loud. Normally, Chem D is more of a softer, funkier, like the original version is softer and funky, and it's loud, but GMO typically is sharp. And so I thought the one that was entered was GMO, and then I read, I think, Chem D one, and I was like, wow, that's cool. That was maybe some of the best Chem D I've ever smelled.
Shout out to Chem Dog. That I'll just say, first of all, and I make no secret of this, Chem Dog's always been my favorite strain. Yeah. Like if you had to pick Desert Island strain, it's Chem Dog all day. And that's partly because I'm biased, because working at High Times in New York, Chem used to run down from Boston periodically with weed and come to the High Times office. And, the minute he walked in, like his stuff was just gone. Like everyone on the staff of High Times just bought like whatever Chem Sister, Chem 91, whatever he had, like
all fire.
It was all going.
Fire,
it was all, he wasn't leaving there. He was leaving there empty handed.
Nice.
And one day Greg came in my office and he said, hey man, he had some issues legally and all that stuff. Right. No secret. And he was staying away from growing weed, all that stuff. He wasn't touching the plant, but he was launching his glass brand and his other stuff. Like he wanted to merchandise, and he came to me and he said, would you design me a logo for Chem Dog? I'll pay you with weed. And I said, fuck yeah, of course I will, dude. So the Chem Dog logo that you still see today, the bulldog with the joint, that's a Bobby Black original. I did that logo, and he paid me with 2 ounces of weed. And it was worth every fucking penny. Honestly, I love it. Just the weed has been long gone, but to see him still using my logo, and he hasn't changed it at all. So it's obviously
it's a good logo.
He likes it, and it's obviously popular. So kudos to kudos to my graphic design classes in college.
Yeah, no, that was a good logo. I still have a T-shirt that he gave me with it on. It's all old and beat up that I keep around because I love it.
Yeah,
that genetic from 1991.
Yeah.
We're 2025, so we're looking at 30, 34 years.
Yeah.
Right now, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And it's still as good. We have the clone from Tissue Culture that we're about to launch on the website. There's a couple other people with clones available as well. But we're going to go direct to consumer on the website with the clone, some skunk dogs, some piff, some Cuban black.
Yeah.
We just got those out of TC, so we'll be launching some of those.
Cool.
We got an OG, all that good stuff. It's amazing where we've gone with the internet, where seeds. It was like you had to get your seeds in High Times magazine, where that's where you found out about the breeders. Phone numbers on the back or addresses on the back. Send your money here.
Yeah.
And now we have a click of a button. You can get seeds or clones to your doorstep.
Yeah, and the seeds and ads in the High Times is what caused one of the biggest fiascos in weed, Operation Green Merchant.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what a sordid tale that one is. It's
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of our amazing lore. That's part of those are the kind of stories that I like to tell, and they deserve to be told. And only the people in the know a lot of times know the real story behind certain things, and
for sure.
I remember years ago, Derry from Barney's flew me out, and April came as well to Amsterdam for me to do a feature on the coffee shop industry in Amsterdam. And the real story, of what goes on behind the scenes of the coffee shop, had never been published.
Wow.
No one had ever explained how the thing really works because it's so underground. It's it's an unspoken secret. Everyone knows what's going on, but nobody has officially said it out loud.
Networks of scooters and everything.
So and Jerry told me, he's like, I want this story told. To me, this was an amazing story.
Right.
And he's like, I think the story should be told because in his mind, we'll never get the laws to change. We'll never get them to open their eyes if we keep it in the dark. You have to shine light on it.
Right. On
how absurd it is and how ridiculous, So he wanted to do it. So he gave me access, him and Sissy, who is my one of my oldest, dearest friends, certainly in Europe, my oldest, dearest friend.
Nice.
But she owns Amnesia and he owns the Barney shops. And so they gave me full access to all the shops behind the scenes, the back rooms, met all the people that do the stuff. Called it Coffee Shop Confidential. It's one of the features I'm most proud of in my years at High Times. And there's a video for it too. But it caused controversy when it came out because some coffee shop owners were really pissed. They didn't like that had come out. And Derry just told me, don't worry about it. Just you're a journalist, do your job. And I'm okay with it. Obviously, there's certain names and details and things that I couldn't include. Of course. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. Right. But it was so funny because the runners and the runners are the guys that bring it. And they have the coffee shop, which is the retail. And then before it gets to the coffee shop, it's there's what they call a run house, which is a small little apartment or a little store, hidden store area where the guy will break down the individual joints. They'll break down the individual chunks of hash and all that stuff. But then beyond that, there's the storage house and the runners go back and forth from the shop to the run house to the storage house.
On scooters.
And that's where the real shit is. That's where the boxes and boxes and, So when I did the article, Derry told the guy, okay, this is Bobby. You're going to take him around and, and he was like, really? You're going to let him film video? I was filming video, not of his face. Right. But you're going to let him do this? He was really paranoid and freaked out. The guy was really freaked out when he first met me. He thought I was to his mind, I was like a narc. This guy's going to blow up my spot. I'm going to, Yeah. But it was crazy. It was a crazy experience. But by the end of it, we had a rapport and he got it and we were bonding, we were laughing and stuff. So it was all good. But he was just at first, he was like, whoa, it's because again, going back, all weed culture comes from outlaw culture. Mm-hmm. It's all outlaw. It's all counterculture and outlaw. So the world we live in now, which is wonderful in a lot of ways, where you can go to a dispensary or a corner store or anywhere and just pick up some weed or some hash or some edibles. I mean, it's great. It's what we fought for. It's what we worked for, But on the other hand, it's if you grew up now and you've only ever known that, you might not realize what went on to get us to this point. And that's where me as an educator with my stories, come into play.
Right. I think most people don't. And I think a good thing we can talk about on the show would be the difference between an outlaw and a criminal. What's your take on that?
We used to have a shirt at High Times. We were doing a memorial shirt of it was one of the anniversaries. I think it was the 30th anniversary, something like that, 35th, one of those anniversaries. And we made a t-shirt and it had the original smuggling plane logo on the front, and on the back there was just a one line of text, and it was "Break the laws that are wrong."
Yeah,
and that to me is a piece. It's not the whole enchilada, but that's goes to the heart of what outlaw culture and mindset is. It's like, don't murder somebody is like a rule that's pretty easy to, you know what I mean? But
it's
like,
pretty black and white.
It's the golden rule, you know, like you wouldn't do it to someone else, don't have them done to you. But then there's laws and rules that are just done for specific reasons. You know, like there's certain laws that can be bent, and there's laws that, as long as you're not harming anybody, you're just breaking the rules. It's like breaking the law, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that the outlaw says, you know, that I'm going to follow my heart and my gut, and your rules be damned, kind of, in a way. Like your attempts to limit my spirit are not, I don't accept those limits. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'll take whatever consequences if I get caught or I get in trouble. Like that's part of the bargain. Like that's the deal with Satan that you sign. It's like, I'm going to do this because I love weed, or I love smuggling, or I love this or that, whatever but you're doing.
Some laws are wrong, and
being
laws
a biker
need to be broken.
Whatever.
Yeah, in my opinion, some laws are wrong and they need to be broken. And the only way to change them is to break the laws. I mean, we talk about there's the political way and lobbying, but dude, look at where all the lobbying money comes from. It's definitely not for our community.
There is something very healthy about rebellion.
Yeah.
And it's downplayed in our American society. It's frowned upon, even though everything great we have has come from rebellion.
Right.
But they want you to conform in school and at work. It's about conforming. But, you know, this country started as a rebellion.
For sure.
I mean, rock and roll, the 60s was a rebellion, and that gave us all the great art, music, like everything, sexual freedom, like women's rights, you know, civil rights for Black Americans. Like all those things all start as rebellions. They all start when someone says, your authority is not valid, or your authority is fucking it up, and we're not going to listen to you anymore. We're going to do something else, you know? And, you know, F you. And that was one of the things, Michael Kennedy, who was one of the owners, the main owner of High Times, he was originally the founder, Tom Forsad's lawyer. And then after Tom committed suicide in, I think it was 78 or 79. Look at me, the historian. I can't remember the year. But after Tom Forsad committed suicide, there was like a trust that was set up to keep High Times going. And there were certain people made trustees, and the lawyer and his wife ended up becoming partners, and they took the most hands-on, because the rest of the partners were Tom Forsad's family, and they weren't as interested in running the magazine. Like they just were part of it, as they believed in it, but they were just like kind of in a different place. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling off because that hash is catching up with me.
That's good.
But what was I saying about Tom Forsad?
Outlaws.
Michael Kennedy also didn't only defend Tom Forsad. He also defended the Weather Underground. Mm-hmm. He defended Timothy Leary.
Yeah.
And interestingly, he was also Ivana Trump's divorce lawyer.
No way.
Yes. So he beat Trump, which if I'm glad he didn't live to see, you know what? I'm not even going to get into politics. Let's not get
yeah. But I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, but he was a real badass too. And
how was it like working with him?
He wasn't like hands-on, but he was always interested in what was going on, and we had like weekly, monthly meetings and stuff. And I mean, he was very interested in keeping the spirit, the outlaw spirit, and Tom's memory alive. It seemed like to me, until the very end, at which point I think he made a couple of they made a number of questionable decisions over the years. Let me be honest about that. Like, but I know that Michael Kennedy's heart was, he was a badass. His attitude was always fuck the man, fuck the government.
Well, and there was a lot of friction with him and Steve, right? Over the years.
Yeah, there was definitely friction. Yeah. Steve deserves a lot of credit. A lot of credit, though.
Yeah.
He brought the magazine back from the brink twice. He's the one who got the hard drugs out of the magazine back in the 80s.
Wow.
He said, this is not what we're about. Like, let's focus more on weed, hippie culture and whatever, which was cool. I mean, like, it's not like High Times was afraid to run a story about something, but no more Coke centerfolds. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
Just say that for Playboy or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But no, so he deserves a lot of credit. Steve deserves a lot of credit. Michael Kennedy helped keep the company together too. But yeah, it was an amazing place to work in, and it was an amazing time. I feel like I was there for like a golden age. I mean, 21 years. I'm what they called a lifer, you know?
Right.
And I'm sorry to see the way things went with it. I never envisioned it going that way. I always had this secret dream and hope of being the editor-in-chief one day. Because there's almost like a line of succession there, you know? And Simonek had a chance, and Steve Bloom kind of had a chance.
Malcolm was there.
Malcolm was editor-in-chief for a while. Mm-hmm. Mike G, the managing editor, was editor-in-chief for a while. So like Dave Bienenstock was kind of like an editor-in-chief for a little bit for a while. Yep. And I'm like, man, how am I the only editor that never got my shot? You know, like, and it was funny because when Josh recently announced that he had bought High Times, Josh from Raw, he was like, who should be the new editor-in-chief of High Times or whatever? And I had all these people like tagging me and like hitting me up like, dude, you should totally go back. You know, and I'm like, yeah, you know, this is not the timing. This is not, you know, I don't think that's going to happen at this point.
I actually wrote a list of the people I thought would be great because I feel like there's a responsibility that Josh has now, whether I'm sure he knew that there's the responsibility. That's why he took it on.
Yeah.
But there's a big responsibility because I think High Times is important on a very large level to so many people. You know, it's not just I'm buying a brand that has some popularity. It's like, there's so much history behind that. And I think it's important to carry on the legacy properly and not do it commercially where it's all about money. Yeah. I don't think it was a move for money because magazines don't typically make money. I mean, I think there's some potential because the brand is good. But, I think
the brand has enormous potential, monetary potential, but it has to be rehabbed first because it's been kind of drugged through the mud. So here's what I'll say about it. Like, I don't know Josh super well. I've known him for a long time, but I've only known him very casually, you know, but he he
had small tables at High Times events.
No.
It's amazing.
So as soon as I found out, I sent him a message and I was like, hey man, I wish you well. I would much rather it be in the hands of someone like Josh than a hedge fund guy.
For sure.
You know, I mean,
for sure.
You know, say whatever your feelings about, Josh or Raw personally. First of all, they're my favorite. They've been my favorite papers for a long time. So,
they make elements too.
They make a really, they make a great product. Yeah. But whatever your feelings personally about Josh is, I would much rather see it in someone like his hands because I think he genuinely cares about trying to make it have meaning, and he knows it's not like you said, print is not a cash cow. Print is dying. No. You know, I don't think print will ever completely. People keep saying print's going to completely die.
I don't think
There'll always be people printing magazines.
It's going to come back,
but it's not ever going to be a big.
It won't be the way it was, and that's okay.
It's a targeted thing, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the online stuff, it's great too. But the print, there's something about having a printed magazine. Until our generation dies, there's still going to be love for printed.
Well, we were just talking about print magazines, so shameless plug time. I just wanted to bring out some Leaf magazines. So this is where I'm at now. This is where my column Cannthropology runs every month.
Nice.
And I do, features and other things, obviously sometimes, in addition to the competitions that we do. This is my cover story on Cheech and Chong. I'm very proud of this one. I've gotten to interview them on camera before, but I never had the opportunity to do a print interview with them before. So that was really cool.
Nice.
And then Alex and Allison Gray, which need no introduction. Awesome. This was our psychedelic issue. We do every issue has a theme. And so August is our psychedelia issue.
Yeah.
And so we're working, that one's coming out real soon.
I love that psychedelics have come into the light a lot more. I feel like there's an importance. We have an obligation to push that forward. I mean, that's not my lane, but I'm glad there is a lane for somebody to push forward too.
Yeah.
So Tom had brought some magazines by, and I didn't realize how extensive your magazine was till I saw it a while back. And then I was like, oh, you guys are doing a really good magazine. I think it's really well produced. I love the feel of it. I think that.
So the interesting thing is talking about High Times in this, we have way more issues distributed and printed every month than High Times ever dreamed of.
Wow.
High Times printed maybe like 40 to 70,000 copies a month.
Right.
That's it. And a lot of those ended up getting returned. They didn't get sold.
Wow.
So Leaf is printing well over 100,000 copies a month.
Amazing.
Every month, distributed in 13 different states.
Nice.
So, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it. And we're doing, I mean, it's like that old Rolling Stone kind of vibe, you know, the bigger format.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I
You
love
always need something to roll on,
yeah.
right?
Totally.
Magazines are perfect for rolling.
Yeah. And these store a lot easier than the High Times magazines. I actually have briefcases of High Times magazines from back in the day. All my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Or all my favorite magazines. My favorite one back in the day was the $1 Million Grow Room. And then I ended up being the $1 Million Grow Room.
Fuck yeah,
10 years later, and
full circle. I love that.
Yeah,
I love those moments.
Totally. And then that was my favorite article growing up. And then I was in that one, and now I want to do the $1 Billion Grow Room with seeds. I feel like that's a game changer. And
nice.
It's ready. I think the idea is ready.
Yeah, right on, man.
So let's talk about some of the other people that have been on the podcast that everybody knows, like Craig Coffey and your relationship with Craig. I think Craig's a great guy.
Yeah, Craig's awesome. He's one of my buddies that I've stayed close with after High Times, after leaving. He and I ran the Cannabis Cup competition for a few years, like post Nico Escondido. Mm-hmm. We took over and ran it from like 2012 to like 2014, something like that. That was a lot of fun.
There's some good cups.
We had a lot of crazy times together, doing intakes and doing bag and tag of judges' kits and stuff. Yeah, so Craig's a real brother to me for sure. You know, I don't stay in super close touch with a lot of people, but I love Elise and Bean. They're up in Portland now. Anytime I get a chance, I hang out with them.
How about Cusack?
Rick Cusack, I love Rick. He was a mentor to me when I first started writing my column. He was the best editor I ever had, and he made me a much better writer and editor. Yeah. So I love Rick. He's like a second dad to me, and he's still alive and kicking out in Montclair, New Jersey, and writing and stuff. He wrote a book. It's not out yet. It's about to come out soon. I'll give him a plug.
Yeah,
it's called Reefer Dadness.
Nice.
Instead of Reefer Madness, and it's about his experiences being raising a little girl by himself as a single dad while working at High Times, and the interaction of parenthood and weed and all that great stuff. And I'm in that book as well. I'm feature in one or two of the stories, I think. So
nice.
Yeah. So if you see that out there, you should check it out.
Yeah. The first time I met Rick, it was the High Times office, and he was like reciting poetry and doing stand-up comedy at the same time. And I was higher than shit, and it was really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I should definitely mention is that another one of the projects that I've had been able to work on over the past several years is starting the cannabis travel agency with my wife, April, Highway Travel, which I know you're going to have, she'll talk about that. I'll leave that for her to talk about.
Yeah.
I should mention that it was at the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam in 2006 that I met April.
Yeah.
And immediately, like, boom, it was like a shot, you know? Wow. And it was at the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam 3 years later that I proposed to her on a canal cruise and had a big engagement party at Barney's Uptown right after. And
nice.
Just wanted to give a shout out to my lady because I wouldn't be where I am today without her.
Yeah, 19 years strong.
Since we met. Yeah. Next year's the 20th anniversary of us meeting. We've been married for 13 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
man.
amazing.
And it's so funny because people who knew me in my 20s in New York, especially once I was doing my column and my show I used to have a show on Sirius satellite radio every week.
Right.
So when I was like at the peak of my game, I was hanging out with penthouse pets and porn stars all the time and like living it up, living the High Times dream life, playing into that shit. Because that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like Bobby Black is like, it's me, but it's also like a kind of a character I play like a little bit, like not in a phony way, but just like you just lay it on. You have your at home you, and then you have your on stage you kind of thing. So I loved like being Bobby Black and shit, and it was a lot of fun. But I never got serious with anybody really. Like I was dating around, doing playing the field, having a ball for many years, and the longest relationship I had was like a year. And then I meet April and everything changed, man. And all April's friends were like, that's the guy that you're going out with? The guy who's hanging out with porn stars and pounds. They're like, oh, he's going to like screw you and dump you. You're going to be like a notch on the headboard kind of thing. And it was like, and she's like, you don't really know him. Like if you knew him the way I knew him, you'd know that, because like when it's the real thing, it's the real thing, man. Like there's no messing around with that. So. Totally. Happy, one of the best decisions of my life.
Nice. Yeah. So let's talk about your favorite cup. Out of all the cups that you've been to, which was your favorite? You the Amsterdam cups, you had Jamaica cups, you had all over the U.S. What was your favorite?
That's a hard one. I mean, the one where I met April was also the year that Alex and Allison Gray came and did the Cannabis artwork.
Wow.
And Craig got the Cannabis artwork tattooed on his arm, like there in Amsterdam. And we were hanging out with Alex and Allison Gray, and like I said, met April for the first time. We had our first kiss on stage at the Melkweg during the award show, like towards the side of the stage. And
you get a high five for that one.
So the 2006 is definitely up there. The only problem is that it was they had the expo at that horrible warehouse on the water.
Yeah,
were you at that one? Mm-mm. The expo was in this like old, drafty, messed up warehouse space on the water, like above Central Station.
Oh wow!
And it was cold as hell, and it was raining almost the whole time. So the expo was miserable. April had gotten sick, and I almost didn't meet her because she was sick and she didn't want to come back out. But again, good and bad. Like the weather was horrible. The venue for the expo was horrible, but everything else was great.
Yeah.
My first one was insane. I mean, the memories I have of that were like me working registration with that, like several hundred tourists who have just landed in Amsterdam, and they're standing in the cold, wet, and rain waiting to get their laminate for the event from me and one other person checking in every single person.
Wow.
And it was insane. And people are paying me with different foreign currencies. Like, and I don't know how to make change or what the conversion. It was crazy.
Yeah. Now it's easy with the phones. We didn't have smartphones back then.
I will say cup memories. Two more just came to mind. The year I got busted, we were doing registration of judges at this little street, like on this little street where the Melkweg is, like across the street from the Melkweg at this little mini club thing. And there was a long line of people, once again, in the rain, in the cold, just got off planes, and they're angry and they're long waiting to get in to get their passes, and it's taking a long time. So Steve Hager says to me, take this bag of buds, go out on the street and just pass some buds out to people who are waiting to keep them happy so they won't get upset. So I go out there, I start chatting with people, handing out buds. I make it about halfway down the line. Two dudes come up to me, normal clothes. Excuse me, sir, you are going to come with us now, please. I said, whoa, what are you talking about? You are under arrest. You need to come with us right now. And I'm like, no, wait. And he's like, we are police and you are coming with us. And I was like, well, let me just tell my boss inside, like, what's going on. He's like, no, you cannot. You have to come right now. I said, no, listen, you don't understand. I'm here working an event and my bosses need to know where I am and what's going on. I need to tell them, like, you can do whatever you want me, but I need to tell them. But I also know that our lawyer is in there as well.
Yeah.
So I go in, they let me go in. And I'm like, Dave, he's like, I'm being arrested. He's like, oh shit, somebody cover my posts. They lead me. The police station was literally down the block, on the same block as where we were doing the thing. So of course we were like right in their face, and they bring me in, they take my boots, they take my, all my stuff off of me, and they put me in a little cell by myself, and I'm sitting in there, and it's mostly soundproof, but I could hear a little bit. And I'm sitting in there, and then I hear the lawyer, Dave's voice, and I hear him talking, and he's like talking with them in the front, and I'm trying to make out. I can't hear very much. And then I hear laughing, and they're all laughing, and I'm like, okay, this is good. Laughing is good. Yeah. People are in a good mood. They're making jokes. Okay. After about an hour, they come and get me, and I'm getting ready to leave. They're like, we're letting you go with a warning, and I'm like, okay, thank you very much. And you go to the window where you get your stuff back, and he's behind the glass, right?
Yeah.
And so he starts, hotel key, 230 euros. And he names each thing as he puts it under the window to me, like, because he's filling it out. And the very last thing is he looks and he picks up, and there's my hash that I had collected. I'd been in town for like 2-3 days. Yeah. And I had collected some chunks of hash, and he's got it in his hand, and I'm looking at him, and he's like, 4.3 grams of hashish. And he looks at me in the eye, and I look at him, and he slides it back under the window to me, and he says, the legal limit is 5 grams. See that you don't exceed it. And I said, yes, sir, absolutely. I took my hash and I left, and I came out, and people were like, Bobby, whoa, Yeah. And it was like, the cops gave me my hash back. Now in this day and age, maybe that doesn't mean that much to people, but like
it's a big deal.
Back then, like I had never imagined, like even if the cops let you go, they always kept your shit. They never gave you your weed or your hash back.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been busted a few times for possession, back in the day, and you never get your stuff back. That was amazing. Like I was like, that was that. So that was a good cup memory. The only other one I would be a really big one was the year that the whole cup got raided. Were you at that one?
I was. When Milo went to jail.
The Borchland?
Yeah, when Milo went to jail.
Yeah.
Ariane bailed her out. Yeah, those were
I wrote the story
things.
that year. I wrote the official story in the mag that year. And everyone gets used to get a year. And I had been waiting. And I finally got my year. And it ended up being one of the most consequential cups ever,
Wild times.
The whole place raided. Do you remember
Searching
the massive
everybody.
smoke out that went down?
Oh, yeah. Because you couldn't
Debbie
leave.
Goldsberry, like she was at the front and figured out from the cops up there, like the cop was, as people were leaving, they were taking all their stuff.
Right.
Like even the 5 grams, like they were taking everything.
Yeah.
And these people had been in town for like almost a week. They'd been collecting all this stuff and they were about to have to hand over their entire week's, you can't recreate that. You can't go back to all those coffee shops and get that stuff back. So they were all like everybody was so bummed. Like everyone as you leave, we're going to take your stuff. So I don't know what I don't remember what she said exactly to one of the cops, but he turned around and was like, "You, if you want to smoke it, you have to stay in here. But once you come out, we're taking it." And she's
everybody
like,
smoked,
"Oh, wait, so we could smoke it if we stay in here?" Because they were trying to get everybody out. And she's like, "Hey, everybody, he says if we stay in here, we could smoke it." And the whole place just immediately busts out all their stashes and rolling fucking salad joints and fucking rolling hash in and like. I'll be damned if we'll let them take it. We'll just smoke it all right here.
Yeah, for sure.
That was what happened. And the cops didn't know what to do. Like, I think in the US, the cops might have been more aggressive and been like, you can't do that, get out. But they were so like shocked. They honestly didn't even know what to do. They were like, hundreds of people just sat down and started hotboxing the entire venue.
Yeah.
And they're just like, like, what do we do? Like, and they ended up all getting contact highs because the whole place
there's no
was
way
filled
they
with
didn't
smoke.
get high.
Some of them are giggling. Some of them are like getting weird and like, and just watching the fucking Dutch police, like people who probably don't normally get high, getting like the highest they've ever been is like pretty fucking funny. And
Totally.
And so what I did was I went around we were at the High Times booth by the front. I immediately went around to all the staff and everyone who was part of our crew. And I was like, give me whatever you have. Give me whatever you have, And I had a bag, like a shopping bag, and I was putting it all in the shopping bag.
Yeah.
I put everybody's stash and I put it in the garbage can that was in the by the High Times booth, like at the bottom of the can. And I put like a couple of cups over it or whatever,
Right.
And then the High Times staff were the last ones to leave the venue. First all the attendees, and then they kept the staff for questioning and for like whatever.
Right. Harassment.
They finally let us out. They asked us a few questions. It was no big deal. And they finally like, okay, get out. And once we left, they searched the whole place.
Yeah. They went
and
through
then
all
then they left.
Mm-hmm.
And we waited. We were there the whole time. Not just because of that, but because like they made us wait. Like you're not leaving until we finish this.
Oh, they went through the booths. They went through all kinds of stuff.
They went through everything. Yeah. And when it was all done and the cops, when the last siren had driven away, I went back in the venue and I went to the garbage can and I pulled the whole fucking bag right out. And I went back out and I said, here's your stash. Everybody take your stash.
Nice.
Yeah. And that was my little good deed of the day. That was my stoner Boy Scout moment.
What an adventure though.
Yeah.
Those cups were great. The music was good. There was always good music.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was also, I should mention, part of the film crew at the awards and the concerts for many years.
Nice.
I was part of like a 3 or 4 camera crew. And I would be on a podium during the show in the middle of like the crowds all around me dancing. Yeah. And I'm like up on this podium. I've got Steve Hager in my ear on the headphone. Camera two, pull out. Like zoom in one, zoom in. All right, not too much. Like that kind of shit. It was, and the rule was Hager said, and he had this rule a lot. He had it at the Temple, which is where the staff hung out, where the judging happened in Amsterdam, the Temple. He had the rule. He wanted no alcohol in the Temple. No alcohol in the Temple, brother. And me and my friend Chris Udaly, we're beer guys. Like in order for us to have a good time and relax, we got to have a beer or two. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it's medicinal. Weed's medicinal for you. Beer is medicinal for me, man. Like, so don't judge my medicine, man. You know, like, so I'd be like, dude, we're bringing some beer up, man. Like, he would get mad and he would say, no drinking during the camera shooting. We want you to be sober. First of all, you're not going to be weed sober because, like I said, you got the whole place is hot box. Everybody in the milk bag smoking weed. So, of course, you're going to be high. But, like, I need a fucking beer. I'm not going to. In order for me to get into that zone to be good at this, I need to get my flow going, you know, like,
yeah.
So he always gave me a pass, Steve. He knew that like just don't. Bobby will deliver. Just don't fuck with his beer. Like, leave him be. He'll deliver.
Nice.
You know.
Yeah, High Times were great. Those were good events. All the cups.
Yeah.
I mean, winning a High Times Cup was a big deal. You know, if you were in the cannabis industry and you won a cup, I think for us it was a big deal. It just changed the game for us so quickly. I don't think we were ready for it at the time. We weren't ready to win a cup, even though we won a cup.
Yeah.
I didn't go there thinking I would win a cup the first time in 2012. All the cups that we won, and I've won cooking competitions too, where I didn't think there was a chance I was going to win.
Yeah.
And they made me stick around for the award ceremony, and then I won first place.
Wow.
Same thing with High Times. It's like, I remember Swerve's crew, all the Cali Connection guys were standing up thinking they won, and then we had to walk by these guys like mean mugging us. It's like, whatever, you know, good times.
Yeah, no, we had some great times. The U.S. Cups were pretty legendary. The ones out at the Nas Center were pretty amazing. We had Cypress Hill headline one year. We did one in Michigan where we had Wyclef Jean headline, and he was amazing.
Wow.
It's a really great. He had everybody up on stage at the end of the set. It was amazing. We had some really, really good times.
Richmond
we had Snoop
in
in Denver, Snoop and Ice Cube in Denver.
But Snoop wasn't, it was Snoop Lion because.
Right.
Yeah, he DJ'd,
it was just
right?
Snoop Lion, yeah.
It was Snoop Lion, but that was a great, amazing adventure. You know, that whole event. Yeah. So High Times, there was also like, I think Slightly Stupid was playing at Red Rocks the same.
Yeah. That was another interesting story, the Red Rocks show. So we were doing something called the Doobie Awards, which is the High Times Music Awards. And we did them at BB King's in New York for many years. We had Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, all these guys would guest host or make appearances and stuff. So we did him there. And then I did him in Texas at the South by Southwest party for years. But that year, Slightly Stupid had won a Doobie Award. So April and I got to go out on stage at Red Rocks with Slightly Stupid and present them the award on stage. And I was having, let's just say, an interesting night. I had a very stressful and insane day. And the limo that had offered its services to take us to the concert from, like, this guy offered, like, I run 420 limo. We would love to take you guys out. Like, he was trying to, you know, show us some love so we would help him promote or whatever it was, you know, right? So we're like, yeah, fuck yeah. A limo to the Red Rocks? Hell yeah, you know. We go to get in the limo and the driver tells us we can't smoke.
Yeah.
And we're like, the name of the company is 420 Limo. The guy specifically called High Times and said, do you guys want to ride in my smoke limo to the concert? And the driver said, absolutely, you cannot smoke cannabis in the limo. And I got so fucking mad. I was throwing a fucking tantrum. And then Nico had a bottle of whiskey back there. Now, I am not a hard alcohol drinker and certainly not a whiskey drinker. Yeah. But I was such a fucked up place that I was like, all right, let me have a couple swigs. Never again.
Too much.
Whiskey makes me a complete asshole, I've learned. So I ended up getting way too drunk. The night took several like turns south. But I will say this, getting to go out on stage with, you know, on Red Rocks with all that crowd with Slightly Stupid and give them that award. Thankfully, I didn't embarrass myself.
Yeah.
I pulled it off. It was and the high was incredible. I didn't like embarrass myself for High Times and everything was cool, but the rest of the night was embarrassing. But at least I didn't fuck that up.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah, High Times. I met some of my best friends at High Times, like Marlon Asher. I met him 2012.
Yep. Marlon's great. Yeah, we love Marlon.
We dabbed his DJ out, and it was a crazy experience. We were downstairs at the Milk Veg. We were hanging out. I had the OG Kush, and we had a bunch of hash. I believe it was butter, some BHO, and dabbed his DJ out who'd never taken a dab before. The guy passes out on the friggin' pool table down there with his arms out. There was no way he was gonna DJ that night.
Yeah.
Luckily, Eddie Funksta, who's DJ'd before, jumped in.
Eddie,
and Eddie jumped in,
old
saved
friend,
the day.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of were you there the year that Redman was supposed to play in Amsterdam and he was like almost 3 hours late to the stage?
Yeah, totally.
it was like 2.5 hours late, and they found him. He had smoked a hash joint where you take the actual hash and use that as the paper, like a flat piece of hash, and roll it.
I'm not sure if I heard this story.
With the weed inside of it, you know.
What year was that?
12, 13?
2012. Maybe it was 2013.
I don't know what it was, somewhere around there.
Okay, I was at that one with I have pictures with Redman.
Yeah, Redman was supposed to play, and they were like, "Where's Redman? Where's Redman?" They had to like bring people up from the audience to fill time and stuff, and it ended up being really cool. There was an amazing beatboxer kid that got up, and there was some other gal that got up.
Oh, you remember the year with Wu-Tang and Rico jumped up on stage.
Yeah, Phone Homie,
rest in peace.
That was the origin of Phone Homie. That was the origin of his weed personality, because before that he was just some dude who bought tickets to the Cannabis Cup.
Rico, and then Phone Homie
came
emerged.
up, completely crushed it on stage, got a massive ovation, and turned and puked right on stage. It was, the whole thing got captured, and it was like he became
didn't miss a beat. Yeah, everybody was tripping.
Folk hero. Yeah, like a folk hero. And then he developed his whole brand and everything from that. And it's so sad.
That was 2012, right? So that was
so sad what happened to Rico, man.
Really sad.
Such a bummer, man. We lose a lot of good people too soon.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that was a legendary performance. You know, I've seen that a couple times in my life. Chris Contos, he's a drummer. He was a drummer for Machine Head for a while.
Oh yeah.
But he was playing like Dimebag Darrell had passed away.
Oh yeah.
And this is like 2 weeks after, and everybody's drinking the
Black Tooth Grin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Getting completely fucked up backstage before he went out. And then he was playing, and I don't even remember the song he was playing, but like Primal Concrete Sledge or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And,
yeah.
And he's going off, and he's throwing up as he's playing drums. Like legendary though.
Oh,
doesn't miss
God.
a beat, and everybody's like, holy shit. That was one of the craziest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. That's some prime action.
Amazing.
But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Well,
if you had one piece of advice for your younger self, I ask this to all my guests, what would that one piece be?
You know, it's interesting. I've always been someone who doesn't like dwell on the past or worry or look that much to the future. I've always been a very like present-minded person.
Yeah.
I want to have a good time. I want to make decisions, enjoy life while I have it. And I want to make decisions using the best information and resources available to me at the time. And then trust in the universe, you know, like, and I always keep my eyes and my ears and my mind open to the signs the universe will throw you. Cause I do believe that I was meant to end up at High Times. I have weed to thank for my career and for my marriage. You know, High Times, you know, weed led me to High Times. High Times led me to April. It led me to all these other amazing things. So I'm very much a believer in following what the universe and your heart and your mind tell you to do. So I don't have a lot of regrets. I have a few, but not very many.
Yeah.
But if I had to look back, the one thing I would just say is, and this is the same shit my dad said to me. My dad recently passed away, like just a few weeks back or whatever. And one of the pieces of advice my dad, you know, kept trying to drill into me was like, you got to think about the future. You got to think about retirement. You got to think about, I know this is a boring answer because you want to hear me say like, you should have banged that penthouse model or whatever.
No, that's a good one too though.
No, it's like the real advice for your former self is absolutely have a good time. Go to those concerts, drink that beer, smoke that weed, all the stuff you did. Great. But just take a little piece of money and put it aside, you know, like, think a little about, and my dad tried to drill this into me for years, and I was just like, I got to live in the moment. I got to enjoy life and this and that, whatever. And I'm not, again, I don't regret, that's who I was meant to be as a person. And I don't think I'll ever be that different.
Right.
But as you get older, of course, your priorities change, and, you know, and losing my dad recently, you know, it's, and then Ozzy, who was my metal fantasy dad, I guess. No, but it, you know, makes you reevaluate. So, like I said earlier, I'm at a different stage in my life right now, and I'm happy. I've always believed that you should embrace and be comfortable with whatever stage you're in. Don't long for the past, and don't, you know, either worry or, like, people who have ambition, sometimes they focus too much on the future. They focus on, like, where am I going to be in a year? Where am I going to be 5 years from now? I've never thought that way. And it's like, maybe that's my shortcoming. Maybe that's why I'm not a weed millionaire or something. But, you know, I believe in enjoying life and living in the moment and going with the flow and what the universe and your heart tell you to do. And that's where it's led me. It's led me to High Times. It's led me to World of Cannabis. It's led me to Leaf. And it's led me here today.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like there's something to be said for living in the moment, living in the present, I mean, so many people live in the past or in the future, and you're constantly thinking about that. But the only thing that's real is right now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's you get older, you start getting in tune with all these things too.
Yeah.
I think that age is a blessing and a curse. One of those things that I feel great being 48 years old, but also, you want to learn enough so you don't make the same mistakes over and over, but you want to make mistakes too. So,
of course. And, that's one of the things I feel like we kind of lost in a lot of other cultures. They revere their elders. In America, not as much. But the thing that is not given value, which should have the most value, is wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom, learned experience, having been somewhere and been through things. And like, those are the people you want to listen to. Those are the people. I'm not saying you have to take their advice or do what they tell you to do, but like, you listen, you absorb, and then you make your own decision. You're going to live your own life, but like, wisdom is valuable. And that's what, like, someone like Rick Cusick has been, like, a mentor to me in that way. Like, Steve Hager was very much, even though I wasn't like a direct, I wasn't his like understudy or anything, but like just working with him, working under him, having him edit my work, just worked with the guy for 20 years, man, he introduced me some of the greatest counterculture icons ever, I got to hang out and smoke with Jack Herrer and John Sinclair and Stephen Gaskin and all the, Ariane, like all the guys in Amsterdam, Bernard, what's his name from Sensi,
Ben Dronkers,
all these guys, like I knew all of them. I mean, I still know them, and Soma, Soma's another one. Talk about old school legend, man. Soma's another one. So I know you spent some time with him recently. I'm so glad that he recovered.
I need to go spend some more time with him. Yeah, I mean, it's like life is short. You never know how much longer people are going to be around, and as we're getting older, including our parents. But like, and some of these older guys that kind of paved the way for the whole industry. It's like we're seeing them slowly fade away. Some of these breeders that made a difference, in the late 70s, early 80s. Neville, guys like that.
Yeah, I did a column about Neville. I would encourage all of your listeners, viewers, if you care about this kind of stuff, this cannabis culture history stuff, check out my podcast, check out my column in Leaf. You might really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace, all the guys that have passed.
Rest in peace, Skunk Man. Yeah. That's another one. Yeah. I got to have an amazing dinner with him and Jair in Amsterdam a few years back, like just before the pandemic. And it was my first time ever really having a conversation with him, And I'm so thankful that Jair set that up and I had that opportunity to get to know him a little bit before he was gone.
Yeah, I mean, we're losing our greats. Like Frenchie's another one.
Yeah, Yeah. I interviewed Frenchie from a podcast. Smoked his hookah many times. Everybody loved Frenchie. You can't even find someone that didn't like Frenchie.
Totally. My book, I interviewed him for my book. Even though he didn't write for my book, he gave me a lot of insight on breeding for hash and quite the characters. Yeah. We're lucky that we've got to meet all these characters. Because our industry is filled with these very unique personalities that you don't get anywhere else.
And the further back you go, the weirder they kind of get.
Absolutely.
Because they were living in the shadows and they were like, you had to be aware of like not being photographed and not giving your name and like it was all that kind of stuff.
That's
and
where
that
all
stuff
these
doesn't
names,
go away. It stays with you to this day. I mean, I've lived in California since 2016 now.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years. And this day when I look around, like when I go to like hit a vape or like light a joint, I'm like, look around, like, is there a cop? And I'm like, I fucking,
it's
like,
so
I'm
weird.
Still ingrained in me. Like, I can't get it out of my head. Like,
and New York is like the most lenient. You can smoke on the streets. California, you're not supposed to smoke on the streets. People still do in the city and places like that. But like New York, it's like, it's okay.
I always smoked on the street in New York, but you're just savvy about it. That's all.
But they could still frisk you in New York. It wasn't,
Well, during the stop and frisk area, I never got stopped and frisked. They were kind of targeting people of color more so.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I had long hair, ripped jeans, so I was sometimes a target, but not nearly as much as,
Not the same. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And if people are looking to find more about Bobby Black, where's the best place to go?
Well, you can check out leafmagazines.com, magazines with an S. And you can check out worldofcannabis.museum is the website for the World of Cannabis Museum project. And on there, you can find my column and my podcast, Cannthropology. And Cannthropology podcast is available anywhere you get your podcasts.
Really cool.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me, man. I've been watching all these cool people be on your show, and I've been kind of, FOMOing a little bit. So it's great to finally be in the seat. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad you get to join the collection of great guests that we've had.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you guys very much for your support. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below. If you're looking to sponsor the James Loud Podcast or the Loud Times Review Show, let us know in the chat, or you can send an email to james@jamesloudgenetics.com.